Hey everyone, Mark Meckler here, president of Convention of States, coming to you for the Sunday night BattleCry. It's my favorite night of the week because I'm at home, I'm with you, I get to answer your questions. This is what I love to do, is hang out with you guys. If I can't do it face-to-face, I love doing it online. So here we are, let's go. We start every week, as you know, with a call to action, something that I hope you'll do with me. Maybe you've already done it, maybe you haven't. Maybe this is something you've integrated into your activism. Maybe it's not. Here's what I'm asking you to do this week. It's a basic one. You can do it. You can do it right now. Sign the petition at conventionofstates.com. I'm pretty sure some of you who are watching, and maybe even who watch regularly, haven't signed that petition yet. So go to conventionofstates.com, click on the sign the petition button, and sign that petition. It'll automatically send your petition to your state representative, your state senator. Some states we call the representatives assemblymen. It'll send it to them automatically. Let them know that you support Convention of States. And by the way, this is important in states even where we've already passed, because we need to maintain support so that these things don't get rescinded, and also so that we're ready when the convention comes, because it's going to be here sooner than you think. We have a bunch of states already working on legislation behind the resolution so that they know how they're going to select their commissioners. They can know how to keep them in line. All that stuff is happening, but we need you to go sign up. If you haven't done it, do it now. I mean, you can wait till after the video, but go to conventionofstates.com and go to the top of the page, click the sign the petition, and sign the petition today. And by the way, then I would say, get active and get involved. It's not enough to just sign the petition. I mean, I appreciate it if you do, but I really want you in. I want you in activity. I want you working for the cause. I want you working to make the country better. You can do that, again, by going to conventionofstates.com. Go to the top of the page and click the Take Action tab. And there you'll find a bunch of ways you can get involved, and you'll get people who contact you. They'll welcome you into the COS family, and they'll put you to work. And whether that's 15 minutes a week or 15 hours a week, whatever it is you can do, we've got something that you can do to help save the nation. And we need you. So don't just sit around. Don't just watch the BattleCry. I love that you watch the BattleCry, but there's more to do. We need you involved. We need you in action. By the way, we have a summit coming up in Indianapolis in September. If you get involved and you step into a leadership position, you can come to that summit. I promise you, it'll be life-changing and incredible for you. So we'd love to have you. Conventionofstates.com, sign the petition, click the Take Action tab, get involved. That's your call to action this week if you haven't already done it. All right, the top news this week, of course. Did you miss it? You couldn't have missed it unless you just completely checked out. Impossible to miss it is the apparent feud between Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Who's going to win this heavyweight battle of champions? The one thing I can tell you is it's not going to be you and me. It's not the American people. I don't think this is good for America. I don't like to see these guys going at it. I loved it when they were working together. I think that's something really good. But I also think we have to understand that people disagree. Really smart people disagree. Really powerful people disagree. You know, I look at this quote unquote big, beautiful bill, and what I keep saying over and over is it can be one or the other. It could be big, it could be beautiful, can't be big and beautiful. And so the idea that we have a big, beautiful bill, look, I think I'm on Elon Musk's side on this thing. But I also understand, and I want to say this very clearly, we've got political realities in Congress, right? Congress is evenly divided, the smallest majority maybe in history in the House of Representatives, slightly larger majority in the Senate. But I mean, when you're dealing with Collins and Murkowski, Lord knows what's going to happen in any given vote. We don't have the 60 vote threshold for cloture on the Republican side. So this might be the best that we can get under the current circumstances. And so I understand where both of these guys are coming from. I wish they wouldn't be lobbing mud balls at each other. I don't think that's good for the country. I don't like that kind of politics. You know, I understand we can disagree, but it doesn't freak me out. I want to be honest with you. I've seen Trump feud with other people, make up with other people. I think Musk is a big enough man to do the same. In fact, I even think I saw Musk sort of back down. Bill Ackman posted, you know, we should bury the hatchet and move on. And Musk responded, "You're not wrong," basically. And so I think this thing's going to come back together. I wouldn't panic over it. Like, I don't pretty much panic over anything that I see people do online. Like, people get so worked up. It's instantaneous response, right? And the I don't know what you would call it. The cortisol kicks in, the stress levels kicked in. People feel like they have to respond. They have to take a side. I'm not there. Who am I with in this fight? I'll tell you, I'm going to pick a side right here. I'm with Elon Musk, and I'm with Donald Trump. Like, from my perspective, these are two great patriots, two great Americans, different but great Americans who have both sacrificed mightily for the cause of saving the United States of America. Both of them under constant death threats. Obviously, Donald Trump surviving an assassination, a serious assassination attempt. Musk has a stack of assassination attempts coming through every day against him. It's hurt his company's value. It's hurt his business. He spent hundreds of millions of dollars of his own money fighting for what he believes to be right. He is on our side, your side and my side. So I'm with Musk in all of that. I'm with Trump because I believe Trump is the same. Trump's not in this for money. He's not in it for power. He's not in it for prestige. He's in it because he believes in America. He's willing to put his entire life on the line, certainly willing to put his fortune on the line. And he's done both of those things. And so I don't understand how I could pick a side and be against either of those men. I'm for both of those men. I want them both to succeed. But, and there's a huge caveat, there's a big but in the middle of this, which is Washington, D.C. will never fix itself. I'm dead serious. It will never fix itself. It's not going to happen. And the reason it's not going to happen is this is not a personnel problem. It's not because we don't have a big enough majority or whatever. Look, I was involved in the Tea Party movement back in 2009, 2010. I was one of the people who helped lead it. We flipped the largest swing in Congress since 1938. You had this huge swing. It went fully Republican. And you know what they did? Nothing. They didn't do anything. We got the Senate. You know what they did? Nothing. So we had these huge shifts in public opinion, huge swing towards the Republicans, and they did absolutely nothing, in my opinion. So if we think that Washington, D.C. is going to fix itself, if we think that there's going to be some big, beautiful bill that fixes thing, if you really believe that D.C. is going to cut itself down to size or limit its terms or balance its budget or limit its jurisdiction, you don't really think that, do you? I don't really think that. I don't know anybody who really thinks that. When I ask that question, do you think Washington, D.C. is going to do any of these things? I ask that question all over the country. Nobody ever says yes. Everybody says no. So then the question becomes, if you don't believe that Washington, D.C. will ever fix itself, well, then how do you fix it? I think this is a lesson that Elon Musk is learning right now. I think Elon believed, and I understand why he believed it. This is what I believed when I helped start the Tea Party movement. If we just go in, we elect the right people, we take control of the House and the Senate and the presidency, and I think with Donald Trump leading it better than ever before, that we're going to fix a bunch of this stuff. We're going to have that opportunity. And Elon Musk is running into the brick wall of Washington, D.C. A brick wall, a swamp, whatever you want to call it. It's so deep and so tall and so fortified to maintain the status quo that I don't think you can attack it from inside. And the only way that I know to attack it is to call a convention of states and to get the states together to propose amendments to take power away from the federal government, to impose term limits. I know Musk believes in this. I know Trump believes in this. To impose a balanced budget amendment. I know Musk and Trump both believe in that. And to take power away from Washington, D.C. What do I mean by take power away? Limit their scope and power. Tell them, no, you can't do these things. The Constitution never intended for you to do these things. For example, Trump is trying to shut down the Department of Education. By the way, Reagan tried as well and failed. Trump may pull this off. I hope he pulls this off. I wish him Godspeed in pulling it off. But even if he does, during the next Democrat administration, and at some point there will be one, I pray it's not for a while, but at some point there will be one, during the next Democrat administration, boom, they're going to start up a Department of Education. They're going to make it 5 times better, according to them, better. That means 5 times bigger. They're going to spend 5 times as much money. They're going to say they need to undo all the damage that Trump and Republicans have done. And boom, we'll be right back where we started. And so do we want that to happen? Is that what you want? You want Groundhog Day? I don't. What I want is I want the Constitution to actually say that the federal government may not be involved in education in any way, shape, or form. Boom, out, done, forever. Permanently constitutional amendment. That's what I want. What I want is the federal government to have term limits on members of Congress. By the way, we tried this in the 1980s. There was a huge effort to put term limits on members of Congress. States did it to their own delegations. A lot of states did it. It was an awesome movement. And then boom, the Supreme Court stepped in and said, that's not legal. You can't do that. Unbelievable. States were not allowed to limit their own congressional delegations' terms. So the way you do that is you impose term limits. But I want to give you a warning about imposing term limits. If you impose term limits on Congress, and you do not impose similar term limits on staffers and bureaucrats, you will make the deep state more powerful than it already is. I know that should make you shudder. It makes me shudder. We don't want more powerful bureaucrats. We don't ever want another Anthony Fauci. I call this the Fauci Amendment. Nobody should go to Washington, D.C. with the expectation that they will have a lifetime career in Washington, D.C. Nobody should be able to accumulate that kind of power. So term limits for Congress, I'm fine with that, as long as we get term limits for staffers and bureaucrats. By the way, there are people out there pushing term limits on Congress only. That's insane. That will empower the Faucis. That will empower the FBI and the CIA and the deep state and the NSA, and all of these agencies will be empowered if you only term limit Congress. We've got to term limit the staffers and bureaucrats as well. And then what about financial limitations? Do you believe that the federal government is ever going to limit its own spending? Doge revealed so much corruption, so much fraud, so much waste, so much abuse. And why Elon's so frustrated right now is because they're not doing anything about it. Right? This is like Biden spending with a little bit of extra garbage tacked onto it. That's what we're getting right now. Again, I'm not blaming Trump for that. I'm saying this is the system. And if you want to fix that system, we need from the outside to impose a balanced budget amendment. I want to give another caveat there. Balanced budget amendment alone? No, that's insane. That's anti-federalist. If you impose a balanced budget amendment on the federal government and you don't also prevent the federal government from imposing unfunded mandates on the states, well, they'll just transfer those programs to the states, and they'll tell you in the states that you have to run these programs and you have to run them according to government mandate, federal government mandate, but you have to run them and you have to pay for them. We don't want that. That's anti-federalist. So you have to be able to do other things when you limit scope and jurisdiction of the federal government, right? You've got to be able to take the federal government's power away from them to impose this other stuff. This is why these three things are so important. Term limits for Congress, staffers, and bureaucrats, a balanced budget amendment, fiscal restraints, along with things like tax caps, spending caps, prohibition of unfunded mandates, all of that stuff together for fiscal restraints, and then scope and jurisdictional restraints to say, for example, no more Department of Education, no more EPA, no more Health and Human Services, no more HUD, all that stuff back to the states. Why? Because governance at the states is not necessarily better, but it's closer to you. You can do something about it. So my plea to Donald Trump and Elon Musk both is to understand you're fighting a beast that you cannot beat alone. You can't beat it from inside Washington, D.C. I love Donald Trump. I think he's doing a fantastic job. But Donald Trump alone is not going to slay the federal Leviathan. It's going to take you and me and Elon and Donald Trump and everybody else working together to call a convention of states to impose constitutional limitations to put the federal beast back inside the constitutional box. Now, often I have people say to me, well, Mark, why would we do that? It doesn't make any difference. They don't follow the Constitution as it is right now. And I just want you to understand that's not true. Okay, they say they don't follow the Constitution. I want to show you the Constitution. A little prop here for y'all. I ordered this from the government publishing office. That's the Constitution. It says right here on the spine, Constitution of the United States of America, Centennial Edition. It's huge, isn't it? Does that look like what you thought the Constitution looked like? Now, you probably have a pocket Constitution. It doesn't look anything like this. This weighs probably almost 10 pounds. Oh, it's a beast, right? And that's the one they follow. That one contains every decision of the United States Supreme Court since the beginning of the country, all these weird interpretations. They gave the federal government all this power. If we want to take some of that power away from them, if we want to make that book lighter, well, I guess we could litigate and hope and pray over the next 115 years that we get the right cases from the right plaintiffs in the right districts up through the right appellate courts and into the right Supreme Court. And, then we just trust Justice Roberts, right? No, wrong. We call a convention of states and we propose amendments and we take that thing and we cut it down to size back to the original Constitution. So when people tell you they don't follow the Constitution, they do mostly follow that one. It's just got a bunch of garbage in it that you and I don't agree with that the Supreme Court has said is okay for the federal government to do. You'll also hear people say, oh my God, Mark, there could be a runaway convention. There's an organization called the John Birch Society. They go by JBS for short. I call them the JBS for a reason. These people are so full of it and they've been spouting their nonsense literally since the 1950s. And I just want you to ask yourself, is the country better today or was it better in the 1950s? Just generally speaking, is our economy better? Do we feel safer? Is the government smart? No, the John Birch Society's done nothing in all of this time. And now they're on the side of the radical left, Soros, La Raza, MoveOn.org, Planned Parenthood, Daily Cause, Hillary Clinton, against the idea of calling a convention of states. And their reasoning is the exact same reasoning, literally, that all these leftist groups use. So when you hear people say runaway convention, there cannot be a runaway convention. And there just can't be. It takes 34 states to call the convention. They all have to agree in advance what it's about. That's a super majority. It's the three things I told you about. They can't talk about anything else. If they do, they're outside the bounds of convention. They can't even propose amendments in those areas. If they did somehow manage to get that done, it would still take 38 states to ratify. 38 states aren't going to ratify something you and me don't like. It's going to be a balanced budget. It's going to be term limits. It's going to be, how about this, limiting the Supreme Court to 9? That's one of the things that I think would come out of a convention. How about this, a single subject amendment that says that these gigantic bills in Congress can't be, just can't be. They can't exist. Single subject, one subject per bill. We need to do that. Most states have such a limitation. The federal government doesn't. So we get all this garbage packed into one bill. People have to vote for the bad to get the good. It's terrible. We need to fix this stuff. We need to take away the jurisdiction from the federal government over education and healthcare and energy and environment. All these things we can do in a convention of states. And I think a lot of these things are going to happen. The simple ones, the term limits, the balanced budget kind of stuff, the tax caps, the spending caps, the single subject amendment. Then how about this one? How about no birthright citizenship? Like, we could just get that done. We don't have to argue about it in the courts. The vast majority of the American people agree that there shouldn't be birthright citizenship. It's not what was intended by the people who wrote that amendment. And so this is ridiculous. We can fix this with a convention of states. So we need to do this now. This is my plea to Elon Musk. This is my plea to President Trump. Bury the hatchet, get together on convention of states, and let's actually fix this stuff. I still support both these guys. I love both these guys, but there is something more that we can do. All right, in other, what I would call good news domestically, real wages are up 4% over the last year. That's significant, a 4% increase. Real wages have been going down, down, down. The actual wages against inflation, now they're up 4%. Inflation is down to 2.1%. That's almost the Fed target rate. Fed target rate is 2% per year. So what's going on? Is this good news? Actually, bad news? Who knows? It's hard to say. I would say real wages being up, that's good news. And that is a long-term indicator. So I like that. I want to see people making more money. I want to see you making more money, putting that in your pocket, having more spending power. Inflation headed down, that is generally a good thing, but that's also kind of a lagging indicator. Inflation isn't going down right now because of what's happening right now. That's based on what happened a couple of months ago, right? And so oil prices are down, egg prices, basic food prices, all kinds of stuff like that. Some of that stuff's included, not included in inflation rates, but it looks like inflation's headed the right way. But what's the long term? And the answer is, I don't know. The bond market is a mess right now. That's really dangerous for all of us, even if you don't pay attention to it. When we have to pay higher and higher rates on our bonds, the federal government floats bonds. In other words, they sell debt to pay for our government operations. That's what a bond is, just a promise to pay in the future. If you give us the money now, that's what the federal government, that's how they fund their operations. That's why there's a deficit. They're selling those bonds. They'll pay those off theoretically in the future. When the rates have to go up, then our debt service payments become bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and they outstrip the rest of our budget. We're in grave danger of that right now. Interest rates on those bonds, or the bond rates, are going up. That's super dangerous. What's going to happen with interest rates? With inflation down to 2.1%, of Donald Trump pushing on Jerome Powell to lower interest rates. Is now the time to lower interest rates? I don't personally think so. I want to see inflation down, inflation stay down. 2%, 1.9%, 1.8%, I'd be more comfortable. I want to see that happen. Maybe then we say we have some interest rate relief. What's going to happen with real estate? I think this is something that's not looked at enough or talked about enough. We have a cancer in our real estate markets that has metastasized throughout a particular sector, and that is the commercial office real estate market. In every major city, it's been decimated. Vacancies are way up. They went up during COVID. They've never come back, and they're not going to come back. We're not going to see the vacancies go down. Too many people realize they can and are working from home. Companies realize they can save tons of overhead by having people work from home. I think there are some productivities that are lost when everybody works from home, but that's just the future. That's the way it is now. COVID changed the marketplace, and we have literally millions and millions of square feet of real estate all across the country, commercial, Class A office space that's vacant right now. You have a lot of banks that are holding real estate in their portfolios that's not performing, and they're not declaring default because that would raise their capital requirements. They don't want to do that. That's a looming bomb. That is a cancer growing inside our system. And at some point, that house of cards is going to come crashing down. I don't know when it is. I can't say how it's going to affect the economy. I can only tell you that it's out there. So I still think that with the tariff stuff going on, with this looming real estate thing in commercial office space going on, with interest rates, we don't know exactly what's going to happen with them, with the bond markets. I think things are uncertain. That means I don't know. I don't think anybody actually knows what's going to happen, but I think that kind of uncertainty creates also caution among the investing class. That has a naturally self-reinforcing tendency to cause everything to slow down. So I don't think we're out of the woods on the economy right now. A place that I think we're out of the woods, sort of, that I think is super interesting is lots of people like to claim that SCOTUS, the Supreme Court, has become incredibly partisan, and the left only votes left and the right only votes right. Well, we had a literal geyser of unanimous decisions come out this week. Some of them very, very good if you're a conservative. 3 decisions in particular. You had one on the Mexican government suing gun manufacturers in the United States for guns that came across the border, and the Supreme Court slapped them down and said, absolutely not. If you want to see a real slapdown, watch the oral arguments on this one. Even the liberal justices were like, yeah, you can't do that. Can we sue you for fentanyl coming across our border? And so they got slapped down pretty hard. That was a 9-0 decision. Another one was Catholic Charities, and the state of Ohio claimed that it could discriminate in reverse against majority groups who have to show a higher standard to show discrimination. So in other words, if you were white and straight and you claimed that you were discriminated against because you were straight and white, you had a higher burden of proof than if you were, say, gay and black, right? And the Supreme Court on a 9-0 decision, again, not partisan, 9-0 said, absolutely no way. That's not going to fly. We're not okay with that. So I think there was one more that was unanimous. There are a couple other decisions that are, more technical decisions, procedural decisions. This is a good week for Supreme Court decisions. I think it upheld religious freedom. It upheld it. I'm basically at this point said reverse discrimination is not legal. That's a good week. I think the rest of the term, the decisions that come out are going to be rougher. And by rougher, I don't mean that people who believe like us are going to lose. I just mean they're probably not going to be the 9-0 decisions. And I think that's the reason they release these first, build up some legitimacy, show that the court can agree on some pretty fundamental issues. And I think it's good. And I think it's healthy. And I'm not a person who despises the Supreme Court and despises all our institutions. I don't hate our institutions. That doesn't mean I always agree with what they do, but I don't hate them. This is what it sounds like when you're gathering cattle in Colorado. Couldn't be a better day. I can't imagine anything I'd rather be doing, other than maybe if you were here with us. The National Popular Vote Compact, I don't know if you guys have heard of that. It is an interstate compact where left-leaning states were getting together, signing a compact, and saying that once they represented the majority of electoral votes, each of those states would be bound to cast their votes, however their electoral votes, however the national popular vote went. And this week we had a state, I think it's, I'm drawing a blank now, Maine or New Hampshire. I think it's New Hampshire decided, now we're out of that compact. We're withdrawing from that compact. They would have had to vote all their votes for President Trump in the last election. I think they didn't like that very much. So I think we see the National Popular Vote Compact slipping away. That's good for the country because it destroys or attempts to destroy the Electoral College. The Electoral College was a brilliant balancing mechanism put in by the framers. The left likes to destroy everything brilliant that the framers did. So this is a blow against the National Popular Vote Compact, and I think we're going to see more of those coming. In celebratory news and in remembering news and in honoring news, this week, 81 years ago, was D-Day, an incredible day in history. And there's very few of those guys left. If you know any of them, I hope you honor them. I hope you thank them. It's an incredible feat of engineering, of warfare, of bravery, of heroism. 2,000 bombers were involved. 200,000 people, I believe, were involved in this initial wave of this invasion. 7,000 ships involved, literally millions of pounds of gear and food and ammunition and all the things necessary to provision these troops moved mostly across the ocean. You had 10,000 paratroopers drop behind enemy lines. It's hard to imagine the scale of this coming across an ocean, right? Coming across the English Channel. Like, I mean, just absolutely stunning to imagine. And imagine they had to remove the enemy Air Force from the skies before they could do a lot of this. I mean, it's hard to imagine the magnitude. It's certainly hard to imagine, at least for me, the bravery and the fortitude, the courage of the men involved. Just absolutely incredible. And the question that I have is, would we fight like that today? What would we fight for as a nation today with that kind of courage and that kind of determination? And I worry sometimes that we're so divided as a nation, that we're so woke as a nation, that we're so self-hating as a nation, at least in a large segment of the population, that we might not have the fortitude to stand up for anything anymore. And I hear a lot of these voices calling for complete and total isolationism. And I want to be clear, I'm not a war hawk. I don't want to be putting boots on the ground all over the world, but America does have interests around the world. And sometimes that means we have to be involved. And last ditch is boots on the ground. Usually it just means through munitions, through financial support, through logistical and intellectual support, intelligence support. Boots on the ground is always a last resort, and Americans should resist boots on the ground, generally speaking. But for example, right now in the Middle East, Iran is a rising power trying to get a nuclear capability, and we should stop them. And in my opinion, that means that we should help the Israelis stop them, or at the very least, just get out of the Israelis' way and let them stop them. And there are those out there who disagree with me radically, those who I consider friends, those who are on our side politically, generally. The most notable among them right now is Tucker Carlson. And I love Tucker, and he is a friend. But there's a huge caveat right now, Tucker is viciously attacking anybody who disagrees with him on this issue. He's viciously attacked Ben Shapiro. He's viciously attacking Mark Levin this week. And I'm going to stand with those guys. I mean, first of all, I'm going to say we can disagree on foreign policy without viciously attacking each other. And I'm not sure what Tucker's been eating for breakfast, but it's causing him to attack people that are generally his allies, generally our allies. And this is kind of like the Elon Trump thing. I'm not down with this. I love Tucker. I have a good personal relationship with Tucker. I love Mark Levin. They're each entitled to their opinion. I'm on Levin's side on this one. And I don't think we should be taking personal swipes at each other on these issues, no matter how vehemently we disagree on them, because we agree on 90% of everything else. So let's just disagree like professionals, like gentlemen. Let's make the intellectual arguments, and let's not attack each other viciously. I don't see how that serves the country. I don't see how that serves the conservative movement. So, my advice would be, gentlemen, back to your corners. Let's just take some breaths. Let's learn how to be on the same side on the issues that we're on the same side. And let's just learn how to have good intellectual arguments about the other stuff and stop the personal attacks. I think it's a good time to stop the personal attacks. We need each other right now. Like, I think Tucker is needed in the fight. I think Levin is needed in the fight. I think Shapiro is needed in the fight on all the issues, not just on the issues where they disagree, but mostly on the issues where they agree. And I think we need to have those discussions. And I think there's room among conservatives for a difference of opinion without hating on each other. That's my 2 cents. So I would say to you, don't buy into that stuff, right? Just because Tucker says it, I don't think we should hate on Mark Levin or Ben Shapiro. Just because somebody else says it, Levin says it, doesn't mean you should hate on Tucker. And really, most of the hate I'm seeing here, to be honest with you, is coming from Tucker aimed at others. Not, again, I love Tucker. I know him personally. I'm not sure what's going on with him, that he's gotten so vicious on this stuff, but don't buy into it, right? Don't hate the people who are mostly on your side because you disagree with them on something. Let's put the things we disagree with over to the side and move forward on the things that we agree with. I have no problem with debating it. Debate it aggressively, debate it intellectually, but let's continue to march forward together on the things that we agree on. So that kind of closes us out for the day in the news of the week. I know I went long talking about COS, especially. That's my passion. And I think right now, at this moment in history, is the time to call a convention of states. If we get Elon and Trump on board, we're going to make it happen like that. All right, I want to go to producer G because there's some videos that he wants me to take a look at and react to. I love doing this. This is one of my favorite new parts of the show. So G, go ahead and why don't you roll whatever tape you got and we'll see what we got.
I've been asking for anyone who will listen for months, what is it going to take to get the things that Doge identified over to the House so they can actually codify them into long-term cuts and law? Well, apparently it took Elon doing a CBS interview that's set to air this Sunday.
You know, I was like disappointed to see the massive spending bill, frankly, which increases the budget deficit, not just decrease it, and undermines the work that the Doge team is doing. I think a bill can be big or it can be beautiful, but I don't know if it can be both.
Yeah, I kind of agree with him. Look, not a great sign when the guy who just landed a rocket upright on a drone that was a barge, by the way, and is implanting microchips into people's brains. If he can't fix the government, he's losing hope? I don't know, dude. This is exactly, though, what I was worried about. They passed this giant bill, and then nothing else happens. And then, thank God for Elon, because he doesn't adhere to any political loyalties. He's just set on this mission, and he's going to break from party loyalty. Do it. That's what that interview was, which I think most Americans are probably vibing more with him these days than the Republican Congress, at least probably anybody who's not on the government dole, actually. But all the elected people who, by the way, stood up and clapped for Elon when his cuts were in Trump's speech in front of the House, those people all ran on not doing exactly what they're doing right now, which is status quo.
You ask 100 people on the street, what kind of government is America supposed to be? 99% of them will tell you a democracy. But that's a lie. The word democracy is not written into the Constitution at one time. It's not in the Bill of Rights. It's not in the Declaration of Independence. The Founding Fathers hated the idea of a democracy. They thought it was the worst form of government there is. And I agree with them. Because in a democracy, 51% of the people control 49% of the people. If you're part of the 49%, you're not free. America was founded as a constitutional republic. And in that constitutional republic that we have, 99% of the people can't take away the rights of 1%. You have your rights because you were born with them, human rights that nobody can take away from you. The government, the majority, no matter who they are, I can't take away your rights.
Amen. This is one of my pet peeves. I hear people all the time say our democracy is at stake. We have to protect democracy, 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 democracy. They have no idea what they're talking about. I speak at UC Berkeley sometime. I have students come up to me say that Trump's a threat to democracy. And I explain to them, we don't even live in a democracy. And they look at me kind of cross-eyed. They've never heard that. Nobody's ever explained the difference to them that we're actually a constitutional republic. If you want a democracy, then you want to see minority rights trampled on. That's what you're for. That's not what we live in. Our framers despised democracy. They called it mobocracy. They knew it was mob rule. They knew it would trample on the rights of minorities. We live in a constitutional republic. That's our job. Protect the constitutional republic, not democracy. All right, everybody, good show. I appreciate you guys being here. Don't forget, hit the like button, the subscribe button, ring the notification bell, whatever you got to do. Make sure you don't ever miss a week of the BattleCry. Make sure you spread it around to your friends. Also, sign the open letter to Elon Musk, conventionofstates.com/Musk. Sign the open letter to Donald Trump. Maybe we get them both on board, conventionofstates.com/Trump. Maybe that'll be the great rapprochement or whatever you call it, the détente between Trump and Musk will be Convention of States. Don't forget, we take questions. You can ask Mark anything by going to conventionofstates.com, ask Mark, /ask Mark. I do answer pretty much anything, and I answer even hostile questions. We get them sometime. Here's one. Larry Young asks, if politicians can be bought, why should I believe that the convention delegates won't also be bought? And the answer is, Larry, it's got to go back to the people no matter what. Even if you say somebody's going to write $1 zillion check by all the delegates, they're going to propose something they're not allowed to propose. It's going to go out to the states. It still has to be ratified by 38 states. And by the way, you can point out anything you want to me and then try to show me 38 states that will ratify it, something you don't like. Can't do it. I've been offering this up for years, so I'm not worried about it. The framers were brilliant about process and structure. We've broken their process and structure. We're trying to use the process and structure they gave us to repair it. I'm not worried about it. JB says, if you could choose only one subject for a federal constitutional amendment, what would be your first choice and why? I think, JB, my first choice would be the repeal of the 17th Amendment. That's the direct election of senators. And the reason I would want to repeal that, senators used to be appointed by the states and they represented state government so that the states actually had independent power in Washington, D.C., essentially veto power, right? They were one of the branches. They were there in the legislature and they were appointed by the states to say mostly no to the federal government. You're overreaching. We won't let you do that. And so I'd like to see that repealed, and I'd love to see the senators appointed by the states. By the way, there's a kind of an alternative to that. I don't know if we can get that one done. I'd love to at least see the state legislatures have the right of recall over their senators. Like, we don't believe they're representing our state anymore. They don't represent our interests. You can recall them home and call a new election. So I think there's a lot of creative ideas that can be discussed at a convention of states. You need to support a convention of states. Go to conventionofstates.com, sign the petition, click the Take Action tab, and get involved. And until next week on the BattleCry, God bless you guys. We'll see you then.